everyone. Welcome to Out and About with Tom and Sherry.
I'm Tom.
And I'm Sherry. So it's been a while. We're behind on our videos, we know. Yes. Because it's the beginning of May, and a couple days ago was a year from the time that we left on our Mediterranean cruise.
But we've also been getting more content for more
That's
videos.
true.
Busy doing that.
We're behind.
Stay tuned for
All
the
kinds of
videos
stuff.
on Tom's 2 weeks in Turkey, and we're planning for Tom and Sherry's 3 weeks in the Caribbean.
That's true too. So anyways, but thanks for joining us. This video is about our stop in Athens, Greece. It was probably about around the 20th, 22nd, 23rd of May last year. We were on board the Norwegian Epic, and Athens, Greece was one of our stops. We have some other Greece stops coming up in our next video, and we promise we're going to get a little better at producing these. We've been busy.
Yep.
So thanks for joining us. So again, we'll highlight everything from our trip. So we'll go ahead and get started unless you have anything else to say about that.
Let's get started.
All right, let's get going. All right, here we go. So this is our arrival into Greece. So when we came in, it's probably, I don't know, 8 a.m., something like that. The Norwegian Viva was already there. I don't remember what the other ship was, but our first cruise was on the Viva, so it was neat to come in and see the Viva there since we had just been on the Viva, because we were on our month-long tour with 2 cruises. So it's really dense. And as these pictures will show kind of coming in, you come into this, and this really wasn't what I expected. There was just so much. I mean, it's just tons. Tons of apartments, and it just was, again, not what I was expecting coming in. But once we got off the ship, we were on an excursion, and I'll put the name of the excursion in the video. I think I have it coming up. But so you leave and you kind of go through this marina area, which was nice. You kind of got that feel for being on the ocean. So this is our bus ride along the marina area there, leaving the port, headed off to our excursion, which was to go to the Acropolis. So it was really pretty. And you thought, oh, this is nice. And then you kind of get into the town and you were like, oh, goodness. Yep. This is busy. But yeah, it was a nice morning. And the excursion that we were on was called the Acropolis and Leisure. It was about 6 hours. So we're going to highlight what we did on that excursion. So pretty much as you're driving around, you see the Acropolis. That was kind of a neat thing.
Yep. And I think I've said this on all of our videos. It's just amazing to me that these ancient sites are just in the middle of a big city. And I mean, I understand why, but it's still just, I find it fascinating.
So we were still a good, traffic was really, really congested there too. But I think it was probably about 9:30ish in the morning or so when we were going through town. So it took a little while to get there, but it was neat to be able to just kind of look in between buildings and whatnot and see these, like you say, ancient sites.
And I think this was one of the times when we were really admiring the skills of the bus driver. They're narrow streets, they're crowded streets, but the bus drivers are excellent at navigating them.
So the area that the buses pull up, again, very crowded, buses all over the place.
Yep.
And so it was, though, really neat to step out of your bus and see the Acropolis and see these ancient sites. The Parthenon there is what you see in this picture. But everybody kind of is in tour groups for the most part, and you start heading off towards the Acropolis for that tour.
And I wanted to say something here. Sherry was sick that day, so she actually didn't walk up to the Acropolis. The tour talked about how many steps there were. I think it said there was about 75 steps.
Yeah.
And I personally, I wouldn't let that intimidate you. I think, I'm in my mid-60s. probably in less than average condition, and I didn't have any problem getting up there walking around. So if you're worried that you're not going to be able to make it up there, give it a try. Worst thing that can happen is you turn around and go back down. But
Yeah,
it really was no big deal.
Yeah, you could turn around and come back down if you wanted to. But
And a couple people did.
Yeah. Because I mean, there's some steps, yeah, for sure. But as Tom said, I had caught a cold in between our cruises, and I just was not feeling all that great. And so I started to walk up a few of the inclines there, and I thought, oh, this isn't going to go well. So I'm going to pass. I'm going to stay down below and walk around. So Tom's going to talk a lot about his hike up and what he saw at the top, and then periodically I'll have some information and some pictures from what I was seeing as I was walking around at the base area, because there's still lots to see. So, and a lot of these photos that I'm going to take, that I show, are me taking photos from down below too, looking up. So kind of a mix of both. So again, this is down below, and so I'm just kind of shooting up, and Tom's already gone off on the tour group to walk up the steps to the top. Because it took, what, a few minutes to get to the top?
Yeah.
About 10 minutes?
10 minutes, maybe.
10 minutes walk, yep. So now these photos are going to switch to Tom at the top, like you said, about 75 steps. And so these are the different sites that you see on top of the Acropolis. And I'm not going to try and pronounce all of these.
This was the Odeon, and I don't know. I don't know what to say about these things. They're just incredible sights, and you think about the people over the millennia that have been there, and
the productions,
it's just moving. Yeah, the productions and
theater.
Yeah.
But in the background in most of these shots, you can see this big dense city too. So
yep.
Don't forget to get a glance at that too in these photos.
And the tour guide said that this area of the city, that was kind of where the higher status people lived, whatever that means. I guess it's the ritzy part of town.
Yeah, and that's just kind of a zoom in of that backdrop in that theater area. And then they had...
And that backdrop was amazing. If you kind of pause your video there and look at the backdrop, just the detail on that backdrop is something.
And then now, of course, they have a little map as to the different spots that you're going to see up on top of the Acropolis there, that 1, 2, 3, 4 area. And then the other ones were down below. And I think there's a few shots in here that show some of these sites down below.
Yep.
So this is you still walking up.
And it was crowded. Every place we went was crowded. We were there in May, and you just deal with the crowds. And it's not bad. I mean, it's crowded, but it's not overwhelming. And that was some gateway that you walked through, and I forget what it was. But I used to work quite a bit with a landscape architect, and he was big on providing a sense of arrival, and that gateway provided a sense of arrival. You walked through the gateway and you're like, man, look where I am. And that was a neat building. And there's a building in Washington, D.C. that's modeled after that building. The guide pointed out that historically is where democracy started. So that was neat to look at. And I just stood and looked at it for a while and kind of soaked it all in.
So this was the first building you came to when you arrived at the top.
Yep.
And I think all of them, for the most part, were in some level of restoration, still work being done on them.
Yep.
But you actually walk through the building. You don't just have to walk around it, right?
No, you got to walk through the building, and that's me.
With your tour sticker.
With my tour sticker. I had a pass.
So then you get to the Parthenon. And that one had a lot of restoration.
There was
scaffolding and
tons of restoration work going on there.
Did you get to walk through that one or just around that one?
Just around that one. We couldn't walk inside it. That's me in front of the Parthenon. With my tour earphone.
That's the back side of the Parthenon.
And the thing that really struck me about the back side of the Parthenon, because is just the scale of it, and you can't really see the scale of it in the picture. But if you look closely at the steps, those are about 4-foot blocks on those steps. And then right as you go in the entrance, there was kind of intermediate blocks. But just the scale of it was tremendous. And wasn't it like built for the gods or something? And so
the temples and whatnot.
temples to the gods, which were much bigger and much more powerful. So they didn't need the smaller steps. You can kind of see the little shorter intermediate steps in the middle. Those pictures don't capture the scale of the building.
And so this is another temple of Athena. And some restoration work. Looked like they were actually working at that time on it. This was neat, I thought, from your pictures of the women's statues.
The statues holding up. They were columns that held up the roofs. Yeah, there's those statues holding up the roof.
And just the marble.
Yep.
Getting a sense of. You can see the sheets of how that.
Yeah. And how it weathered off and flaked off over the centuries. To the Odeon from a different angle, that amphitheater.
Wonder if they do any type of performances or anything in there.
They didn't talk about doing performances in there like some of the other sites we went to.
Yeah, our video on Ephesus, the amphitheater there, which is huge, they do performances there pretty regularly. So.
Yep. But they're cautious with the sound in Ephesus, that they don't rattle things loose and damage things. And just another view of the sea of apartments in front of the sea of water.
I think this is the last temple area up there. And that is a smaller theater that's on the opposite side. And there's one of those lower down areas there that some restoration going on. Yeah. Some pretty amazing views from up top, not only of seeing the ancient buildings, but just really getting a sense of this area.
Should I tell my cannonball joke? How they just leave that stuff around and it's amazing nobody picks it up and wanders off with it.
A little crowded,
back
and forth.
Gateway, yep.
So now you're heading down to get off the Acropolis.
And that sign, I looked at that sign, I said, that's all Greek to me, but then I did see some English on there.
And that's that temple that was down below that Tom was mentioning. I'm sure you could go down there. It looks like it has walking trails and whatnot, but we did. That was a part of our tour. And then the informational too. So, all the tours pretty much have the headsets and everything, but sometimes you can't quite. Might be a little choppy, so it's nice that they have the boards there that you can read too. So.
The tour guides are all good.
Yeah.
Every tour we went on, the tour guides were good.
There he is. I was waiting at the bottom. This is like a steady stream of people going up one side and down the other side. And there's nice, areas you can sit in the shade. There's a gift shop. I think they had some really limited refreshments or whatnot if you were going to stay down below while somebody else went up. And then just some views as we were walking back to the parking area to get on the bus. And there was some.
I love that horse, and the hat on the horse was especially neat.
It was perfect. So the second part of our tour was to go to Plaka. So there were shops and restaurants and whatnot. So there were some really interesting things that we saw in that area. And these are just some shots on the way over to Plaka while we were on the bus.
Is it Plaka or Plaka?
Plaka, maybe Plaka.
Plaka.
And so the driver would, or the tour guide on the bus would point out different places, just the civic places. So this was the tomb of the unknown soldier there, and I guess they have some guards that do some um, parade movements or whatnot there. So people were kind of hanging out there to get pictures of them doing that between those two little guard shacks, I suppose. And then just different, again, civic buildings. This was the Academy of Athens, so an educational area.
And I particularly like those statues
Mm-hmm.
with the soldiers up there.
So the bus didn't stop at any of these places. It was just they kind of slowed down, and like I say, traffic was pretty dense. So now we're coming into the Plaka area. So this was really neat. Here are these, you know, uh, business buildings and stuff, and then intermixed are again some of these ancient sites and churches and whatnot. So Tom really liked this particular.
I really like this church, and I think there's a better picture that shows. It had a real symbolic meaning for me. Now there's a better picture, I think, that comes along.
So this other building is just
There it
built
is.
over the top of it.
Yep. And you look at that, and you look at, that church is obviously, a place of spirituality. And I looked at that for a while, and I thought about it. I'm like, if I'm paying attention, if I'm not paying attention, then the, hustle and bustle of life, so to speak, kind of overshadows the spiritual part. But if I am paying attention, around the spiritual part, great things could be built. And I thought about that for a while, and I couldn't decide which was the case in that case, but maybe neither. It was just an interesting thing to think
And then this was the main square area that our tour stopped at, and we kind of, were given, I think we were like 45 minutes or so
to just walk
to
around.
walk around in this square area. There were a couple little restaurants you'll see in the photographs, but we did go into this church.
Yep. But again, here's this giant grand church, and then an older, much smaller church next to it.
Yeah, and that's coming up here in the pictures. So this is the side of that main church inside. We did go inside.
Yeah. And like so many churches over there, just amazing.
And then, as Tom said, right next door is this little medieval church.
Yeah. It was just small. It was humble. It just had a real authentic feel to it. And I actually enjoyed that church more than the other one.
And you could walk completely around it. A lot of the, engravings in the side,
Yep.
in the back there. It was just a neat little church, and the mosaics in the ground outside of it. And then we went inside, and so just again.
And the soot on the walls over the
yeah.
centuries, and just this thousands of year old construction, and just beautiful. And you kind of had to wait your turn to go in there. And the same level of detail. It wasn't as shiny and gold plated, but it was authentic.
Mm-hmm. So this is that same square, just standing out in front of the church. You just kind of turn around, and this is the square, and so you can see there's little bistros and restaurants and things of that nature. But if you look between these buildings, look straight through, you see the Acropolis. So again, another example of here you are just kind of wandering around, and you glance up in this direction, and there's these ancient buildings. Just a statue that's in that square area, just commemorating, the significant history for them. And it had recently been a holiday or something, so they had it decorated and whatnot. So back on the bus and headed back to the port. And so again, more buildings that they were pointing out along the way. This was the municipal theater that opened in 1895. So looks like they were getting ready to have some type of a presentation there. But the streets are very narrow and very busy in going through here. Narrow.
Very narrow. You know what I like about that street is the sidewalks are wider than the street.
Yeah, that's true.
You know,
a lot of people were walking around. Yeah,
a lot of people are walking around, and that's
well, with the traffic and all, I guess that's probably the easiest way to get around. But we thought we would include some video here on the bus ride of the port area, just to kind of give you an idea of what this looks like. And it's kind of neat to see the other ships and whatnot. But you certainly can walk out of the Athens port area and walk down the street, as different people were doing, and just walk around the city if you wanted to. We really wanted to go to the Acropolis, so that was what we wanted to do that tour for that. But like I say, I always like watching the ports and seeing the activity that goes on in the ports and the different ships that are there. And this was quite a busy area. And we did not get any photographs. We'll elaborate a little bit more here in a little bit, but everybody showed up at the same time to get back on the ship. And it took at least an hour for us to get back on the ship.
Yep.
And it was pretty warm that day too, even, latter part of May.
But it wasn't unpleasant.
No, it was nice talking to people, and people were making jokes and
yeah.
But it was funny. People would come up in their taxi or get off their tour bus at the port entrance for our ship, the Norwegian Epic, and they'd look at you and they're like, "Is this the line?" And we're like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Well, where does it end?" It's like, "Keep going, keep going." It was a long line.
But if you're going to wait in line, Athens, Greece is probably not a bad place to do it.
Yeah.
It wasn't unpleasant.
Yeah.
I didn't think.
So I don't know what the issue was, but it might just be a little heads up that getting back on the ship may take a little longer than you anticipate once you arrive. But with all of us standing in line, they weren't leaving us. So.
And obviously, there's a lot of cruise ships in that port.
Yeah. So this one coming up here to the right, that's the Norwegian Viva, like I say, that we had been on a week before, which we loved, the Norwegian Viva. And so we've already done a lot of videos on that.
And we did a video comparing
we did.
Two ships. So
so if you're interested in some ins and inside reviews of the Viva and the Epic, you can watch that video. I'll put a link to it in the description if you're interested in that.
And if you want to see more of our content, be sure to subscribe and hit like, because that helps us produce more stuff.
Yeah, more people will see it. So
yep.
We've been documenting all of our stops on this month-long Mediterranean Grand Tour that we did in the month of May 2025. So there are lots on there, and I think we have maybe 5 more to go after this one. We did go to Olympia in Greece, and I think we still have Malta. Have we done Malta yet? I don't think we've done Malta yet. Cannes, France. So there's some coming up. So like Tom said, if you'd like to see that, be sure to subscribe. So there is our ship, the Epic. And so here's the area where everybody's coming in on their taxis and their tour buses. So they have these little portable tent areas here. And then there's the actual building of the port area as well. So, but it was a little warm. So it was nice. You'll see these trees, but you can kind of see this line of people that were trying to get back on board once we got back on board. And we tend to get back to the ship about, I don't know, 1, 2 o'clock typically.
Yeah.
We usually eat up back on the ship. So we enjoy, like I say, looking at the port, just seeing the activity, the different, ferry boats that come in and out. So I think there's one coming up here, and watching all of that. So just relaxing. So we enjoy that. Here comes one.
Yeah.
They're odd looking too.
That was a neat looking ferry. Well, I think the front on that one folds down and then the cars drive on.
Okay. But it was a nice day. Like I say, a little warm, but obviously sunny. It wasn't windy, so it was nice. Just hanging out on our balcony. We tend to always get a balcony room. We really enjoy, again, watching the port and seeing what's going on. And then we had some lunch, and then we headed up after lunch back on deck to just kind of look around. And what I was trying to do was I was trying to see where was the Acropolis from where the port is, which was really hard to see, but I finally did find it. And so I've kind of put a little arrow in here to kind of give you a sense of where that's at compared to the port. So right there, see that hill? That's it. So just right in the center of this town or city. And then we headed out. And for me, this was an interesting part for me because I've studied Greco-Roman history when I was in college, and just the significance of Athens. And I really didn't pick that up, driving around town and whatnot. It just feels like a city, like a Los Angeles, kind of thing until you get to the ancient sites. But it really kind of hit me on the way leaving, looking back from the ocean, looking back at Athens and the Acropolis, which you couldn't really see that well, but I kind of knew where it was now. But it was just that, trying to imagine what it was like in the ancient world to be on a ship coming into this area of Athens. And obviously this stuff would not have been there, right, to this scale. And you would have seen that Acropolis with those buildings. And I really got a sense of that, thankfully, as we were leaving, because I didn't get that feeling when we were there. So that kind of was redeeming for me. Because from being a history person, the significance of Athens is, remarkable.
And if I'm not mistaken, Athens, after we had booked our first cruise, you were like, man, if I'm going to be over there, I want to see some of the more historic places.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Athens is one of the places.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was kind of this view here. I just kind of imagined, being on some of these ancient sailing ships, coming into this port with that Acropolis being there, and just, what that sense of arrival would have been like at that time. All right, well, that's our video of Athens, Greece, and that particular tour. So if you are going to be going on a tour, cruise, Mediterranean cruise, hopefully this video gave you a little insight. And as we mentioned, all of our other videos are about our various stops in Italy, Greece, Istanbul, Turkey. So if you haven't checked those out, we invite you to do so.
Cyprus.
We didn't do a video on Cyprus.
That's right.
We didn't spend a lot of time on Cyprus. It was pretty basic for us. But there's certainly a lot of excursions there, but we just didn't do that. So anyway, so we still have a few more coming up, and then as Tom said, our channel is all about the travels that we do, and we've had a few since May last year.
We're better at traveling than we are at producing
Yeah,
videos.
yeah, it's a little slower. So we'll get there and have some more stuff both out and about internationally as well as here in northern Nevada where we live. So we have some activities, some museums and other things too.
Yep.
Yeah, yep. So more to come, and we have some future trips planned coming up. So we will continue to share our videos and insights on the various trips that we do.
Thanks for watching.
Okay, we'll see you next time.
Ciao.
Bye-bye. Come on.
You don't want a lot of background noise. How can I all quiet on the set when it's not all quiet on the set? Ready?
Yes.
All quiet on the set. Athens video. Take one. Roll them. Every time we end one of these videos, I think we need to learn how to say goodbye in Greece, and then I remember it was like someone
It was very difficult.
had no idea how to pronounce.
Right.
So shut her down.